Today we're looking at a thermal cooker. Think of it as a slow cooker that doesn't use any power, or like a thermos where you add hot food, vacuum seal it up, and it cooks away for hours using its own thermal energy. This brand is a My Thermal Pot in Australia. You can get these everywhere. They're all very similar products using the same principle. You can see there's an inner pot, a larger one and a smaller one. The smaller one I tend to use for rice. And there's the insulated pot that you seal up once you've preheated your food. So let's see if this works. Let's do a cook up. Today we're doing a mushroom, chicken and rice. I'm using a jar. I like to keep it simple when you're camping. The recipe calls for adding mushrooms. I'm using chicken thighs with skin on and some with skin off. I'm adding some onions just to freshen it up and a bit of chili, because I love to add chili to just about everything. That smaller pot I'm going to do the rice in. The bigger pot I'm going to do the chicken in. I'm going to use the meter thermometer so that once we've got it sealed up, we can measure the temperature. So I'm frying up the onions and the chili. I'm going to add the chicken thigh fillets with skin on and some skin off ones as well, and brown those up a little bit. The general idea is you get it on the simmer for 20 minutes or so before you put it into the thermal cooker. So with about 10 minutes left, I generally get the rice started. So we'll brown these chicken pieces off and we'll add the wet ingredients. So we'll throw in the mushrooms. I should say the chicken needs to be 75 degrees Celsius or 165 Fahrenheit to be at a safe level. So you want to make sure your chicken gets up to that level before it goes into the thermal cooker. Once it's in there, it needs to be at least 60 degrees or 140 Fahrenheit to be safe. So we've thrown in the jar. I like to add a little bit of water. Now with these thermal cookers, you need enough fluid to maintain the heat through the thermal cooking process. So my impression with this is that there's not quite enough fluid. So I anticipated that might be the case. So conveniently, I've got a bottle of white wine. So we'll add a teaspoon or so of white wine to the mix. So that should give it enough fluid. And white wine's a pretty safe bet when you're dealing with chicken and a creamy sauce. So the idea is to now get this up to temperature, bubble it away for about 10 minutes. We'll come back in 10 minutes because I'll start the rice and then we'll do both for the last 10 minutes, so it should be right to go in. Alright, we're 10 minutes later. I've got the rice going, so I reckon another 10 minutes or so and we should be right to transfer it to the outer pot. So here we are 10 minutes later. I've got the meter thermometer, which I'm inserting or struggling to insert into a piece of the chicken. So that will measure at the end of the probe the temperature of the meat, and then at the other end, the piece that sits outside, that will measure the ambient temperature within the chamber. So I'll put the rice on top, the lid goes on top of that, and then we can transfer the inner pot to the outer pot. Now this didn't come with an external case, which I think helps keep it warm. However, I've got an Aldi version that also uses 12-volt power. I'm going to do another review on that, but I'm going to use that carrying case for these purposes. It's not a perfect fit, but it's good enough. So that's the Aldi one, and you can see the jack there to add power. So that's an interesting concept. We'll look at that soon. All right, let's come back in an hour or so. Houston, we have a problem. The meter is not registering. It seems this outer thermal pot is the meter's kryptonite. So we'll come back in another couple of hours and we'll see the result. So here we are 3 hours after I sealed the container. Let's open her up. Drum roll. Look at that steam and perfectly cooked rice, if I do say so myself. So we'll remove the rice container from the larger container. You can see the steam coming out of there. Oh, and there we have man down. That's the meter. Hopefully it still works. So let's go for some superfluous B-roll.
Tasted better than it looked.
Well, move on.
So what do I think of the My Thermopot thermal cooker? I love this thing. The chicken turned out beautifully, as you'd expect a slow cook meal to turn out. I think this particular appliance is brilliant for off-grid applications, to be able to use a small amount of fuel to get the food up to temperature, including rice, and then being able to cook the balance of the meal without using any power, I think is absolutely fantastic. They're relatively inexpensive. I can't really see any downsides. I suppose if you don't have much space, then these units are a bit clunky, but they're not particularly heavy. So again, in my view, this is an essential appliance for van lifing or off-gridding or overlanding. All right, thank you for watching. I appreciate that. I'll see you on the next one.